Hello, everybody. I'm Bebo, and I'm here with John D. Clair, and we are here to talk about the new Edge of Darkness expansion. Is it two expansions?
So in the Kickstarter, there's one new expansion available, and sorry, my computer's lagging badly,
It's all
so I'm
good.
getting back feed. Okay, so in the Kickstarter currently there's one new expansion, a potential second expansion if we hit a stretch goal,
Okay.
which would be included with any pledges for the expansion that's just available right off the bat. And then, of course, you can also get on there the original base pledge that was available in the Kickstarter that we ran last year, and the expansion that was available during that Kickstarter. So there's four total products.
Awesome. So
Yes.
I only played the game when it was in prototype, and
Yep.
so I was playing with little bits. But there are 40 3D plastic miniatures in this game. So this is a big box game. I've seen the box itself. It's larger than me. I could probably take a nap in it. That's pretty cool. And the art came together so well on this compared to when I originally played it.
Yeah, I mean, art wise, I couldn't be happier with this game. The base game, a lot of the there's a ton of art in the game because the game comes with a bunch of essentially modules, and every game you use 10 of them. And each module has three pieces of art, a big location piece of art, and I can actually show you one. So like here's one from the new expansion, right? So they come with this big piece of art, and then they also all the cards in the game are double sided, and they have art on the front and art on the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, this is just prototypes I have, but the location art, which is big and epic, is beautiful. And the artist we got for the base game, Elena Danner, just did a phenomenal job with that. And then Brian, who we got for the Cold Harbor and did the locations for that, just was on par and matched the awesomeness with the new expansion as well. I think.
Awesome. So this game was the game itself was inspired by the card crafting system, which we originally saw in Mystic Vale, right?
Yeah. Um, so timeline wise, I designed Edge of Darkness. I pitched that to AEG, and in the process of them developing Edge of Darkness and heading towards publishing it, I also invented Mystic Vale. Mystic Vale is a much easier product to make, so it ended up being earlier in the timeline, and that got published back in 2016. And then years later, Edge of Darkness, a much larger product, finally gets out there.
That's one of the biggest tips that I give people too is that if they're planning on publishing a game, publish a small box game first and then a big box, which you went like big box, bigger box, but it's kind of similar.
Well, yes. If I was self-publishing, I would have struggled mightily to turn Edge of Darkness into a product.
That's
Um,
totally fair.
yeah.
Um, so tell us a little bit about Edge of Darkness and the world that it's set in.
Sure. So thematically, Edge of Darkness is set in it's sort of a medieval type of gothic medieval world, um, but the particular and fantasy, right? But this particular world is beset by an encroaching darkness, right? And we're not talking about like armies of Mordor. We're more like talking about corruption and evil spirits.
Hmm.
Um, though there are also monsters, but not armies invading, right? Um, the game takes place or the base game takes place in a city called Aegis. Uh, though the expansions add new like city locations thematically, so you can see more of the world. Players represent guild masters, and these guilds are sort of the power brokers in this world, and are responsible for the economy and all that jazz, but as well as defending the world from this encroaching darkness. And while players aren't cooperating in terms of trying to win together, they are all responsible for the city not, being overrun by monsters. Though ultimately, you're just out for yourself, and maybe if some of the city gets overrun, and hurts your opponents, that's okay. So.
Right. Right. I remember that element. um, so How did you end up getting involved with Alderac? Because that seems like an interesting story. Because I remember playing your stuff way back at BGGCon, like 2014, maybe even. Maybe it was 2015.
Probably 2015.
Yeah, must be
Yeah.
2015.
So in 2014, I started going to BGGCon every year, basically starting in 2013, for fun and for pitching prototypes to publishers. I pitched Edge of Darkness to a number of publishers in 2014. I got a lot of interest. AEG was the one that ended up with the game in 2014, and one of the advantages is their sort of headquarters is here in Southern California, which is where I live. So that helped. I hit it off with them. They liked working with me. I liked working with them. I had more ideas. They were sort of really enamored and liked the card crafting system. And I was like, I've only scratched the surface of the design space with this system. So they wanted me to, see what else I could do with it. And I was already like, well, I've already got ideas. So, expect something coming. And the next thing that came along was Mystic Vale, right? And
yeah,
from then we've just continued working together. We've done Space-Based Custom Heroes, Ecos, which is coming out.
I've heard
at Essen this year in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks.
So does that mean that this is your full-time career right now?
I am full-time game designing right now, yeah.
What did you do before this?
So I still do some hourly work, which is sort of a holdover from what I used to do. But it's a small portion of my time relative to how much time I spend game designing now. I used to do litigation consulting and then also marketing consulting, essentially, all on the data end. So I was a spreadsheet guy.
Oh, that sounds not quite as much fun as game design, but I also know from experience that game design is a lot of spreadsheets. Honestly,
it certainly can be. I mean, spreadsheets are less fun than playing games, but
they are. But they've got to be there in order for us to enjoy those games, right? So, how many Kickstarter campaigns have you now been a part of?
This is the third. So I did, one of my games came out with Tasty Minstrel Games, and they ran a Kickstarter for that. And then the first Edge of Darkness Kickstarter, and now the second Edge of Darkness Kickstarter. My next one will probably be for another game I've got in the works with Alderac called Dead Reckoning, which I'm super excited about for next year. Yeah.
What is that theme? Can you tell us?
It's a high seas privateer pirate theme.
Cool. That's good to know. I like that. So with that experience in Kickstarter, is there any like one bit of advice that you would give to somebody who's launching on Kickstarter maybe for the first time?
Well, so the advice is different depending on who I talk to. A lot of people on Kickstarter are self-publishing, right? So they're approaching it as both the designer and the publisher. Mm-hmm. My experience is different in that in all cases with Kickstarter, I've been just the designer, right? So I don't have to worry as much about setting up the campaign page and all that jazz. I kind of have opinions and offer them as they do it, but it doesn't all fall onto my shoulders to do all of that.
Right.
So from my perspective, one of the as a designer, it's very easy to this is a general advice, but it does apply to while the Kickstarter is going. It's very easy to read all the comments, and my advice is just read the positive ones.
That is super good. I would also give that advice as a woman on the internet.
You have to be able to take the negative comments and if there's and see if they're actually speaking to something that is maybe true about whether it's about running your Kickstarter, about the way the game is presented via the Kickstarter, about the rule book, and it could be improved if people are confused about the messaging or something, right? All of that is valuable. But as a designer, you gotta separate your love of this and passion that you've put into this game from some people's negative opinions and just not get too caught up in that.
Don't let the haters get to you.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's awesome. So how many Kickstarter campaigns do you think you've backed personally?
Me backed?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not an avid Kickstarter backer. Probably 15.
Awesome. Are there
Um,
is there anything live right now that you want to give a shout out to before we sign off?
Currently live. I'm not currently backing anything live. The last one I backed,
Okay.
which I'm really excited to actually try, was from Red Raven Games, their Sleeping Gods game.
Oh, I love their game so much.
I'm a huge Red Raven fan. I love Ryan Lockett's stuff.
Me
Yeah.
too. Above and Below, like, just got us. And then Megaland came out, and I was like, finally a game I can play with my kid that she'll enjoy. Like, she loved Above and
Yeah,
Below, but it was still a little heavy for her.
sure. His design approach is just fun.
It is.
It's his games are pleasant to play. His art style is just fantastic. Yeah, love his stuff.
It's great. So, I am going to say thank you for joining me, and thank you everybody for watching. And then we're going to end this with the Edge of Darkness Kickstarter video so everybody can see it, and then hopefully go back it. There's a link above or below depending on what program you're watching on, and you should be able to click right to the Edge of Darkness Kickstarter campaign. You've already blown it out of the water with what is it, $171,000 already? Yep.
We're about I think we just crossed 170.
171,004. You've got
Yeah,
2,600 backers and lots of time to go. So 8 days. We've got 8 days for everybody to get in on this campaign and get the expansions. And the biggest thing is the reprint of the base game, which has not been widely available. This is definitely something that you want to jump in on and get a copy.
yeah. I will note it is unlikely, and there is no current plan for this game to go to retail.
Okay.
AEG discovered that making double-sided transparent plastic cards is quite expensive in the process of doing this, and the margins aren't there for them to make a reasonable retail version currently. They haven't. They're still thinking about how they can do it, but they haven't figured it out yet.
Yep.
So this will not be in retail. Kickstarter is the way to get the game.
All right. Well, that is super good to know. So if you want Edge of Darkness, go back the campaign now. There are multiple pledge levels that you can jump in at, but you probably want that $120 Guild Master instead of just getting the expansion if you don't have that base game. So go check it out, and I'm going to show everybody the trailer video right now. I'll see you all tomorrow at 7.
AEG presents Edge of Darkness Cliffs of Coldharbour. Edge of Darkness was successfully kickstarted early in 2018 and delivered to backers in the summer of 2019. 4 guilds vie for control of the city of Aegis and struggle against the Blight. The Guildmaster base game and Sands of Dunestar expansion from the first Kickstarter feature 50 locations, each with double-sided tarot-sized contacts and threats. The game also features an extraordinary threat tower which menaces the city, 4 double-thick player boards, a gorgeous main board and board extensions create an incredible table presence. This Kickstarter features the second expansion for Edge of Darkness, The Cliffs of Coldharbour, including 12 new locations and their associated contacts and threats. We leave the city of Aegis and travel to the icy wastes of Coldharbour, a community of miners and traders that stand resolutely against the danger they call the Chill. The denizens of Coldharbour are allies of Aegis and Dunestar, yet they're consumed with their own struggles against the elemental cold and the dark forces that surround them. The people of Coldharbour know their enemy well. The Chill takes the form of monstrous creatures, corruption of the people's representatives, and the frozen tendrils of fear that wrap around the hearts of all who dwell in these lands. The game is played in a prologue and 8 rounds. On your turn, you'll draft cards from the street to form your hand. Then you will drop threat cubes into the threat tower to see if an attack on the city is triggered. You'll select a contact from the available locations and craft it onto one of the cards in your hand, providing a new ability. You'll use the card abilities in your hand to dispatch agents to locations, or take actions on your cards, or use the abilities of locations where you have agents. If you use an opponent's card, you'll pay a price in gold. Cards are then discarded and sent to your opponent's guild halls or to the common discard, depending on which player owns them. This campaign has one stretch goal. When unlocked, the backers will add a set of advanced guild packs to the Cliffs of Coldharbour reward. The advanced guild packs include 2 special locations for each guild, accessible only to them, which provides an additional 11th location during play, and asymmetric starting conditions to alter the balance of power in the city, plus new citizens and patricians which interact with these locations. Now you can stand fast against the chill and expand your Edge of Darkness game to include the Cliffs of Coldharbour. Back the Cliffs of Coldharbour Kickstarter now.
We make fun.